Hey there, retail enthusiasts. I'm Brooke Moody, a retail account director here at AWS. And welcome to the Retail Insights with AWS podcast, a podcast where we dive deep on everything to do with the world of retail. We discover the latest trends. Today, I'm joined by Duncan Jessep, Enterprise Sales Manager. Duncan and I recently spent time in Singapore for the NRF Asia Pacific Conference, our region's premier retail conference. And today we're going to be debriefing on what we saw, what we learned, and what we're taking home. So Duncan, let's get into it. What do you get when you take 10,000 retailers from across 70 countries and put them in Marina Bay Sands for 3 days? An excellent conference, so many learnings. Today, Duncan and I are going to be debriefing on what we saw, what we heard. We were very fortunate to be on the ground, weren't we, Dunk?
Absolutely.
Tell me all about it. What is NRF?
Well, look, it feels like a lifetime ago. I think it was, when was it? Early June.
Yes.
You and I were up there on the equator in Singapore. NRF, I think, a lot of retailers would be quite familiar with NRF, but for those that, are not, NRF's the largest private sector industry body based in the US. They represent 58 million employees in the US, but just given its size, and a lot of retailers look to the US for inspiration, they've started branching out and franchising that industry body in regions. So NRF APAC that we went and saw is the second edition down, or I don't want to say down under, but down on the equator, really targeted at Asia Pacific and Asian headquartered retailers. So it was fascinating just to see what is it, essentially an American-based industry body, but with a very distinctly Asian flavor that I'm looking forward to unpacking with you today, Brooke.
Yeah, Dunks, we're going to get into it today. We have a whole bunch of learnings that we want to debrief on. We were fortunate to be on the ground there. We attended several of the conference sessions. We walked the expo floor. We actually exhibited as well. AWS had several booths on the expo floor. And then we just spent time with retailers. I think for me, something that was so special, out of that 10,000 folks, there was only about 85 Australians, right, on the delegate list. So not a lot of Aussies and New Zealanders. I should be correct there and include my New Zealanders. Yeah. And there wasn't a lot of us. So it was really nice that NORA, the National Online Retailers Association, organized this delegation in partnership with us, AWS. And we were actually able to gather those retailers and put on a number of events through the week, curate store tours, and that to me was something that was really special, spending time with the other Australian retailers up there, because it was easy to feel somewhat overwhelmed, right, with 10,000 people.
Yeah, it was a huge, when you're on the expo floor, much like NRF in the US, you just feel a little bit overwhelmed. I remember on the first day we were doing booth tours around and a delegation came up from Brazil. So even though this is a APAC conference, there was a delegation led by an industry leader who had around 40 Brazilian retailers who didn't speak a word of English, but very interested in what we had to do and say. So it is quite easy to feel overwhelmed there. But I think you spoke about our partnership with NORA. This is our third NRF. So we've done NRF New York, beginning of 2024, NRF APAC, and now, fourth NRF New York again, and now, NRF APAC. So, our partnership with NORA has been fantastic. And I think what's really great to see is when Aussie retailers, they're quite collegial, they love getting together, and we're in WhatsApp groups with a lot of retailers down under. When they travel together overseas, they really stick together and they represent each other and the industry in Australia so well. So it was great there's almost a meeting of different countries and cultures in a retail sense at the conference, which is cool.
There's so much to be learned from the Asia Pacific region. I feel like as Australians, we typically look to the US market and we look to what's that consumer base doing. And we go to the US flavored conferences and we read the US newsletters and Substacks and all the rest. But I think there is so much to be learned from the Asian market.
100%.
And it kind of blew my mind, the scale of what they're doing over there, right? This live commerce, social commerce, that's no longer new in the Asian market. That's well established. It's something that hasn't really hit Australia yet. That really stood out to me. The need for retailers to really work localization in where they're they're really operating in a truly global setting. There's a lot for us to learn.
Yeah. I was speaking to Rick Green from SRG afterwards. And I think one of the stats that blew a lot of the Aussie retailers away are that Korea has hit 50% online sales, which
50%?
is 50%. China has also hit 50% or
Wow.
plus online sales, whereas Australia is sort of hovering around that 18%, sub 20% mark, and obviously growing. And it's really fueled by this next generation that was really on show, I think, at NRF APAC, and how they consume and shop in a very different way. So I think you spoke about the influence of the US, and I think traditionally Australian retailers have looked to the US, but we're so lucky here in Australia where we get the influence of both the Asian and Chinese markets coming down and the US retailers. So I think it was just a great opportunity to see the differences between the two and how we can sort of cherry pick the best of both.
Yeah, there was lots to learn. I want to firstly highlight some of the key stats. So over 3 days, 11 keynote sessions, 18 breakouts, 42 exhibitor big idea presentations, over 300 retail partners and exhibitors. And this is the one that broke my brain. Over 300 languages represented in that Marina Bay Sands Conference Center. So that is just a huge, mind-blowing number of people to learn from in this environment. Aussies that were there, Aussie retailers on some of those stages. We had Rick Green from Super Retail Group, Amanda from Treasury Wine Estates, Ian Bell from Mecca, Ian Bailey from Anko, Deirdre Boyle from Flybuys, Agnes McDonald. We saw so many of our epic Australian retailers represented. Let's just kind of take a moment to debrief on some of our highlights from their sessions.
Yeah, great. Sounds
I know Ian Bell from Mecca had the quote of the conference. Maybe we'll start there and the AI of it all.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you. I mean, Ian, he was great. I mean, he was on a panel with a couple of speakers, and he had some very strong views around AI. I mean, it'd be the elephant in the room, and the elephant in many conferences these days is AI. But he had a great take, which was that in this age of AI that's coming through, a lot of the tasks that were traditionally considered to be IQ based, so logical reasoning, will become automated, which actually puts more EQ tasks and that emotional connection that people have, especially in a shopping sense, that'll become almost a precious commodity and it'll become sacred. So particularly in Mecca's world, they really differentiate themselves on their in-store customer experience, and those shop assistants being able to connect with their customers on a different level and advise and guide in something that is quite a vulnerable, or can be quite a vulnerable setting. So he saw AI as something that was enabling that employee to customer experience as opposed to replacing that employee to customer experience, which is fascinating. What was your take on his comments
very
there?
much so. I think the ability to enable sales associates to do what they do best and to form this genuine human connection, that is the magic of retail, and that needs to be fiercely protected at all costs. But when you've got consumers who are walking into store and they've got their phone in their hand that has all of the knowledge, if not more knowledge than the sales associate has, you've got to, as retailers, help that sales associate to be on the same level playing field. Right. Yeah. And so I really did like that comment, and that fostered a lot of discussion over the couple of days, is kind of where should AI be playing in the retail setting. And I don't think we're looking to replace that human to human connection. That is magic. That is sacred. But we're looking to amplify and enhance and support around the edges.
Can I just add it? So there's a great example that we heard in one of the breakout sessions from Salad Stop. And they really are getting close to that line of employee, customer, AI, the front trenches there, where they're putting a conversational interface in store for their customers to order salads. So they can say, hey, I've just done a gym session this morning. I'd like to get a salad for that has less than, say, 700 calories based on my purchase history over the last 6 weeks. Yep. And it will assemble a salad conversationally. And then the shop assistant will make it for them. So it's an example of where they're getting right up to the line of customer interfacing with AI, but then still having that handoff to someone to make the salad in front of them.
That's so interesting, and going far beyond the old iPad in the corner of a shop with a personalization quiz on it, right?
Yeah,
like that
different.
is it's almost an agentic experience.
Yep.
Kind of you're integrating with this agent, you're having this conversational, let's find what is exactly going to be the right product for you based on your very hyper-specific, hyper-personalized needs.
Yeah.
That's super interesting.
One thing that really stuck out for me, Brooke, was Ian Bailey's session. So Ian Bailey, ex-Kmart or still part of Kmart or Anko CEO. And he spoke about how in this age, traditionally Kmart's been a fast follower. They've seen a trend and they've rapidly gone and they've developed a version of it and they've taken that to market. But what we're seeing with Gen Z in particular is that trends come through so fast. And there's these micro trends that if you don't jump on them in your second, you've missed them. So they've pivoted to, Anko have become a product company, identifying these trends early, different product trends, different style trends, and developing products really rapidly to just ride those micro waves, which is fascinating to hear their transformation just to enable that kind of mindset. And it's definitely paying off for them.
Yeah, the Gen Z consumer is moving so quickly. And by the time a lot of brands are identifying a trend and getting around to kind of hopping on that trend is long gone, right? These trend cycles, some of them are 24 hours or less. The managing director of 7-Eleven, I can't remember if it's 7-Eleven Singapore or 7-Eleven APAC, she was on one of the main stages. And she said that they've actually got a dedicated team now in their business who all day long are analyzing social media, what's coming up, what trends are they forecasting are going to be the ones that are going to really get legs and get momentum. And then they're rapidly responding in their business. They've built this aspect of their supply chain that is enabling them to then get trends into store within a few days. And they're actually transforming the way that they want consumers to engage with their business. So you think 7-Eleven, you're going to go in there for a cold drink and maybe some Panadol. But no, really, it may be a snack. It's blind boxes. They're going after that pop market and that there's candies and regular different snacks that really take off on social media. That's a completely different business model for them.
Completely. And it's that front end product, what product, right store, how do we get it to the customer? And it has a full pull through to how you operate your supply chain. Traditional supply chains are not set up to fulfill in that way or fulfill really direct to customer, which is, you spoke before about social commerce. That was another big trend that we're sort of seeing, particularly out of Asia. What are some of your observations around social commerce, Brooke? I know it's a very exciting topic.
It's so exciting. I get so excited to talk about social commerce and spending time in Asia. I think a lot of brands have actually moved away from what we in Australia would define as an e-commerce experience. There is not often a website that's kind of got a catalog of products to click through. There is this real culture of social commerce. And for those who haven't experienced it, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of different. So you have these sales associates or content creators who are influencers in their own right. They're live streaming for 2, 3, 4 hours or more. And they're just sitting there having, much like we're doing now, having a conversation about, here's a glass of water, here's what I think about it. And then the consumers are interacting. They're asking questions. Well, what is that your opinion? Do you think I should get that one? This color? How does it compare to this other product? And it's a two-way conversation. And that's how consumers are actually purchasing. It was so interesting to me on my day off at the very end of the conference. I went and spent some time in some of the local shopping malls to see what was going on. And I would say close to half the stores in this large local mall, Far East Plaza, had content ring lights. There was full camera setups. There was sales associates who were live streaming while they're in the middle of their store. And they weren't so interested in engaging with me because I'm just one person, right? They've probably got thousands of people online who are shopping with them right now.
It's fascinating. And I was talking to Katie Derritt, who's the CEO of NORA, and she was saying this concept of social live shopping, particularly in China, is massive. They have events at stadiums where you go, and in the middle of the stadium there'll be an influencer or a series of influencers, and people sit in the stands for hours, as you said, just buying products and interface and just being around the influencers. So you buy tickets to buy things. Like it's just a different way. It's a community-based feel, but it's also just a completely different shopping experience that I think will be coming to these shores very soon, maybe sooner than we think. And I know there's some big announcements in this, well, not announcements, but things coming that will enable that in the next couple of months. Big
things coming. I think speaking with retailers, particularly at the Bring It Home events that we did as we got home from Singapore and we spent time debriefing on what we heard. Several of the retailers we were speaking with are saying this isn't something that's 6 years away. It's coming. It's 6 months. Consumers are ready. I think with globalization and localization, Australians are exposed to what's happening in different markets. They're seeing this online and they're wanting that new and different ways to shop. Here is something that I heard the other day. Consumers now scroll on average 2 miles per day on their phone. Per day. Yes. Your finger's getting quite the workout like during your day of scrolling on your phone, shopping or engaging with content. And the way that they're looking for products, the way that they're searching and discovering has completely changed. Going to Google, searching like how you typically would. You told me a stat this morning.
This morning I was reading, so GPT's hit 700 million active weekly users.
Wow.
Last month, or, as recent as, last month.
Yeah.
And it's getting to a point where, and I had some friends recently visit in Melbourne and they needed to find a cafe and they do not go to Google. They go to GPT to give them, here's our hotel location or our Airbnb. Give me the top 3 cafes that are within, walking distance. Yeah. And that's how they're discovering this content and getting recommendations. So it's that conversational AI-based search and discovery process is just becoming the consumer norm.
Well, the CTO of Wesfarmers, I heard her speak the other day. She was saying that consumers will enter up to 10 lines of text into an LLM, into a Claude, a ChatGPT, or whatever it is that's their preference, to find what they're looking for. Up to 10 lines of text.
Yeah.
That is the level of engagement that consumers are now expecting retailers to also be able to provide in their search and discovery experiences that they're offering.
Yeah.
And that is something that in the Asian market, I think with the social commerce live shopping, they've already got that understanding of that's how the consumer wants to search a product and how they want to engage. And so that move into how that translates into other experiences that they're offering is quite natural. I think it's something that, the Aussie retailers can learn from.
I think they know it needs to come, and this concept of merchandising is becoming more prevalent, and there's lots of tech vendors in the space that can enable it. Amazon ourselves have implemented Rufus in the US. It'll be coming to Australia soon, I suspect.
It's a conversational chatbot.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is it? Conversational chatbot. Conversational chatbot. So the search bar on Amazon.com becomes a chatbot. So you don't have to search for a product. You can search for a scenario. So you could say, give me the most popular Mother's Day items for less than $30 in my region. And it will give you a list of products based on that search. And so we're seeing Doug Harrington, who spoke at NRF in New York earlier this year, spoke about this, and he said we've received, as of January 2025, 500 million long text search queries from our customers just from this mechanism, and we're able to take that and further refine our search experience and our web experience for our customers. So it's becoming normal.
It is becoming normal. And we saw the CTO of ByteDance, who own TikTok and who basically, social commerce, live shopping is coming with TikTok Shop to Australia. We saw him speak. By the way, he's about 25.
Yeah. Senior VP. He's just graduated from high school.
Yeah. So he's on stage and he drops this stat that has absolutely just stuck with me.
Yeah.
It was 13% of content on the TikTok platform today is AI generated. And that can be everything from the avatar that's delivering the script that's being written, potentially even the product that's being showcased. And he was saying that they are forecasting that will reach up to 30% by the end of the year. So this AI content generation, AI search and discovery, it is completely changing the game.
Yeah, and it's just lowering the cost for brands to be able to experiment which is, something at AWS we love to talk to our customers about. You don't need to go and spend lots of money on certain things. Let's fail fast, find what works, and scale quickly.
Well, we got into a great conversation at one of the NORA dinners, and I can't remember who said it, but he was saying that they're experimenting with product development. And that's something that would typically take, for one SKU, between 3 and 4 weeks to iterate a number of versions. They're now able to do up to 5,000 versions in a day, and very rapidly then go and prototype, all right, this is the best one. This is the one that we're going with. So that product development life cycle completely, that's so fast.
It's so fast. It's so fast. I was just thinking, let's maybe come back. You spoke about on your final day, you went out into the wild, saw retail at its best. And this is something I love about NRF. We have the curated conference experience with the expo hall and the speakers, which is, it's almost like the catwalk, and then you go out into the street and see what people are actually wearing. We did a store tour. We always love doing a store tour, again, in partnership with NORA. Brooke, tell us about the store tour that we organised this year. Who did we see? What were the themes?
Yeah, let's get into it. This is, I think, the theory of it all. Everyone was just so excited by that final day to go and put it into practice and spend some time outside of the four walls of the conference. The store tour, we partnered with NORA. I think we looked at, we had a wonderful other partner, RX, as well, who helped us put it together. Yep. And I think the team went and looked at over 80 stores. I think they spent 2 days hitting the pavement. That was in addition to all of the prior research that had been done. So the 8 or so stores that we ended up seeing were really well curated and ended up being the kind of best of the best that Singapore retail had to offer. We started at Fair Price Finest, which for those who don't know is a local grocery store in Singapore. And you think, okay, a grocery store, how special can that be? They have curated this experience in store. There's so many different zones. There was, when you first walk in, a bar. There's a ability to then go and choose whatever items off the shelf and have a chef prepare them for you. So suddenly people are coming in and they're grabbing a drink. They're having a meal. They're maybe taking a workshop in the cooking experience zone up the back of the store. The store manager, Coco, he was amazing.
He was.
He had so much autonomy in his role and to be able to make decisions and put on the right events for what he knew his customers wanted and merchandise the right products that, again, he knew that his customers wanted. It was really different to any other grocery store experience that I've ever had. No,
it's completely, and I think there were 2 things that stuck to me from the Fair Price store. One was the location. So it's in the middle of essentially what is a bit of a party zone in Singapore. Clarke Quay. And so, a lot of their customers come in, the store manager was saying, after sort of 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. And so they sort of treat it as a bit of a bar location. And they've obviously got a bar inside as well, which is quite fascinating. And then the other thing that stuck out to me from a digital experience perspective is as you first walk in, there is the bar where you can get things made. There's an actual bar where you can have drinks. And then there was a digital sommelier. So this was a floor-to-ceiling interactive screen.
It was not just an iPad.
It was not just an iPad. This was a fully AI-powered experience where you could say what you'd purchased or what sort of dinner you were about to have. And then it would wine match you with recommendations based on what was in stock in the store at the time. So just a really cool experience that, wine can be intimidating for a lot of people. And this just completely broke down that barrier with an informed decision.
Well, this Clarke Quay area, right? I think it was Coco again was saying that it was traditionally an area that hadn't gotten a lot of foot traffic. It was kind of a dying area. But given the success of the experience that Fair Price is the flagship retailer in the centre has been able to attract and then additional consumers and foot traffic, other stores in the area are actually having to extend trading hours and are seeing this rising tides lifting all boats type.
Yeah, they've really uplifted that whole area, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, super cool.
Where else did we go?
Next door to Fair Price, we went to Sweetly.
That's right.
The music store.
Super cool.
Like $20,000 guitars. Like it was epic. If you're a muser, Sweetly's where you need to go. And apparently when celebs are touring through Singapore, it's the place for them to go and hang out. Like all these musos in this kind of big studio space, similar to what we're in today. And the main thing is that they've got a cafe at the front of the store. That's just a really cool cafe, and people will want to come and spend time there. When you buy a drink, you then get access to, is it an hour of vinyl?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you can listen to vinyl. So you go and select one from the shelf, and then you can sit there with your friends. Potentially, we were plugged in on a dual headset. What were we listening to? Dr. Dre?
Dr. Dre, 2001, The Chronic.
Classic. And that was just such a good, it was such a good vibe to take something that's become a very solo activity and something that's become very digital, bring it back into the physical realm and have a shared experience.
Yeah.
And then maybe while I'm there, I pick up some guitar strings. Maybe I find my next dream instrument. Not that I can play anything, by the way. But
that's the whole thing. Just like Fair Price, I think Sweely did such a great job. And Ian Burlett, I think Mecca said this as well during the tour. They take a very intimidating concept, which is musical ability that not many people can do, and make it accessible and make it friendly, and you feel comfortable going there, and maybe you'll then picking up a guitar and, buying one of the $20,000 guitars, I guess. But it was just, you felt comfortable and safe there. It felt like a studio. It felt like someone's house. It was just a really cool physical retail vibe.
Yeah. And I think that would be a perfect example. What we were talking about earlier is empowering those sales associates. I mean, I'm sure that they have a lot of depth of knowledge, but giving those sales associates deep technical information, using some AI-powered tools, I can see that being a cool use case. Next door to Sweely, we went to, what was it called? Fort Canine.
That's right.
The swimming club. It's a swimming club for dogs, as the name suggests. Dunks, what did you like about Fort Canine? What struck out for you?
Look, it's a concept. I don't know how it would go in Australia. Very uniquely Singaporean, where, a lot of people live in condos and high-rise buildings. But, during COVID, I think a lot of people got companion animals and pets, dogs.
Yeah.
Dogs like going outside and swimming, but the dogs can't go in their condo pools.
Yeah.
So they can take them to Fort Canine and go for a swim with their dog in a pet-friendly pool with the right pH levels, etc. Fascinating concept, and highly popular, which I was actually surprised to see. But just a really cool idea that just seemed to be absolutely booming that I would have never thought of.
Yeah, and obviously they have the pet store there as well.
Yes.
So pet owners are going to come down. They're going to spend money. They're going to buy food. They're going to buy toys. They could also take their pet to acupuncture.
Yeah,
it was a full service for your pet, which is such a cool concept.
It was. Yeah,
such a cool concept. We hopped in then to a minibus and we went over to Vivo City, where we went to check out Dyson and Samsung. Duncan, tell me, Dyson, what stuck out to you?
I think the one thing that stood out from Dyson, other than I just don't know how their products are just so good. So no one's been able to crack the vacuum cleaner code except for Dyson.
Exactly.
It's just phenomenal. The thing that stuck out for me at Dyson was the circular economy concept. So they had a trade-in program where you could bring in any old vacuum cleaner, didn't have to be a Dyson, and they'd give you $75 off the product. And what that was doing was, it was just engaging people in getting a great deal, but it's also removing or getting the brand closer to that secondary market, which was a theme that we saw later on when we went to Coach in this circular economy concept. So that really stuck out to me. And just speaking to the store manager who was giving the tour, they said that it was just customers loved the program. So it was clearly working from an engagement perspective, not just a gimmick.
Yeah, and it was really clearly articulated as well. As soon as you walked into the store, there was this great big sticker on the floor that really pushed forward this circular economy piece.
Yep.
The experience zones in there, I think they did really nicely. So obviously with Dyson, it is a big ticket item and it's a big consumer purchase, and there's a lot of potentially behavior change that needs to go through the consumer mindset to get to the purchase of spending $1,000 on a new hairdryer, because it's a premium item.
It's a lot of money.
You want to try before you buy. And I think Dyson did that experience really well. They had a hair salon out the back so you could try the products yourself and get coaching and guidance from a sales associate. They had their range of hair care products as well. the vacuum zone, there was sprinkling sand and sauce on the floor and people could get in there and see how effective the products were. The experience zone was really nice. Samsung also offered experience zones, but what I think Dyson did really well is they made it feel like these are disparate products from across various categories, but they felt like they were anchored in a really strong brand story. And it didn't feel like you're hopping from one store to the next, whereas Samsung they'd highlighted each of the products separately, but they didn't feel as cohesive an experience. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I think that was partly to do with store layout, partly to do with the way that the shop assistants interacted at Dyson. But yeah, 100% agree. I think more of a technical point, but, both of them in store had digital experiences around endless aisle. So, products that weren't available, you could shop through and you could select things that could get shipped directly to you afterwards. But yeah, agree.
Endless aisle is a tricky one. And I feel like we should cover that in another discussion because there's a lot to be said about doing endless aisle well and having it feel integrated and seamless as a shopper's experience. And I don't know if I've found anyone who's really nailed it, but we'll get into that. We then went over to Casetify and Iron Orchid. Iron Orchid as a shopping center itself, wow. Everyone in the group kept getting distracted. There's so much to see. One thing that struck me at Iron Orchid, all of the beauty individual stores. So obviously here in Australia, we have a lot of big box, we have a lot of multi-brand, but a lot of the beauty stores were able to offer these really bespoke, elevated, high-end experiences for perfume brands, for hair care brands, etc., that we just wouldn't be able to offer in our formats. So that was really interesting to see. And I think a lot of the retailers were getting excited and distracted. But we finally made our way to the back of Iron Orchid to Casetify. Casetify offers phone cases, pretty standard, but they do it in this way that's super exciting and super engaging. They have on their walls these panels that are magnetic that they can re-merchandise every single week. They can completely flip the store. And how they're able to do that products-wise is that they print every single product to order within an hour. That's microtrends at the next level. That's hyper-personalization actually in action.
Yeah.
What did you like about the Casetify store?
Yeah, I think the re-merchandising piece is so simple. Magnetic, ability to move things around on a magnetic wall just means that every time you go to the store, or let's say you go to Ion once every couple of months, it looks completely different. There's new displays, and so it just engages and re-engages people. I think the personalization thing was just it was incredible. They had in the store, they had the two printers out the back, and we were lucky just to knock on the door and say, hey, can we have a tour?
We have a little peep out there.
And we saw behind the curtain in Oz, they have a whole room full of blank cases, and they're literally just printing custom cases for everyone. And because it's an hour turnaround, you can go and continue your shopping, come back and pick it up. One feature, and the CTO of Casetify CEO of Casetify spoke at NRF. They work closely with AWS. And one of their big challenges is people uploading, because it's completely custom content, copyrighted material. So we're working with them, or we've worked with them to develop a solution that will identify potentially copyright infringement material and flag in their self-service system for designing. So they're not caught out there. So, there are things that, they need to take into consideration, but they've worked to make that as seamless as possible for their customers.
It's a really cool use case. It's a really cool use case, being able to do that verification and authentication, making sure that there's no kind of profanity being used or copyright infringements or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's actually really interesting to see. And that use case, but then also the use case around like this live social, as we've been talking about, it's something that retailers are going to have to grapple with, right? Is that suddenly you've broken down what was the really, really firm boundaries between customer and being able to create and integrate with your brand. And so you are going to have to you're going to have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But what guardrails can you put in place? So that's where my mind's going with this. Okay, we're doing authentication here, but how do we do that in other touch points across our brand? Yeah. We then went to the last store of the day, Coach, which was a bit of a favorite. I really enjoyed Coach. They have, again, another experience zone. They're doing the experience thing so well. Downstairs, they have what was a cafe as a concept, and every quarter or so that they're flipping that concept so they keep it really fresh and really relevant. It's currently a bar. Not a bad place to stop in a retail tour at the end of the day.
No, it was not.
Custom Coach cocktails. They've kind of got even the ice cubes with a brand logo. That was really, really cool. I think what Coach does really well is they play with their brand heritage, but then they evolve it into different touch points across the brand. So seeing that bar set up, it was kind of cassettes.
Yeah.
Like it was leaning into this real retro thing.
Apparently so it was originally a cafe out the back, and the store manager was saying just went viral. People would just go and get a coffee. They would post it on their socials, and people are still knocking on the door saying, is the cafe there? So they're getting this amplification of the brand outside of just foot traffic, which is so great to see. I mean, the brand is so powerful. The other thing that really stood out to me, and to your point of keeping that heritage but pushing the brand, they've got a Gen Z brand. Coachtopia.
There's so many different diffusion brands, and diffusion brands are usually not really in.
Yeah.
But Coachtopia was cool.
It was super cool. They'd sort of had a dinosaur theme, or it was sort of like a prehistoric kind of theme, was my sort of read on the text or the logo branding. But it was Gen Z designers created for Gen Zs, know, and so they'd just basically given the reins to these young designers to go and take elements of the brand, but go nuts.
Play with them.
Play with it.
Yeah.
So, and that was highly successful. It was a lower cost entry point into the brand. It was a little bit edgy, and it was apparently doing really well for them, which I loved.
I think they had also a sustainability element in their Coachtopia brand.
That's right.
They had recycled and reclaimed materials being heroed in a lot of the designs. And you touched on it just now with the Gen Z designers, Gen Z for Gen Z, and it has to feel authentic and it has to feel true to the consumer. And this next generation, that's what they're looking for when they're shopping. They want something that feels authentic and it feels like it's for them, by them.
That's it.
Yeah.
The other thing I loved about Coach, and this is, again, just bringing it back to AWS, we have a great case study with their parent company, Tapestry. Also coming back to Ian Burl's insight during his keynote around employee experience. So we've built a conversational chatbot just for Coach staff to, throughout the day, if they get some anecdotal feedback from customers, they can enter that into the tool in any language they like. So is there a particular item that the customer wanted that's not available? Was there a particular problem they had with the store, or do they have a suggestion around how things could be better? So it was really about this tool is designed to capture frontline customer insight from employee shop assistants and then get that data back to their corporate head office so it's queryable in a really easy way. And how Coach and Tapestry have used this is they've identified when customers are coming in requesting certain products from certain stores that just aren't there. They had no visibility into that in their systems. So they were then able to take that demand signal and just do better inventory placement across North America.
Nice.
So they've got, upwards of 20% better they're not getting stock outs because they're getting product into their stores faster. So it's a really cool AI empowering staff to deliver a much better customer experience.
But without getting in the way of the customer experience. You're not trying to put a screen in front of a customer necessarily, you're empowering that sales associate. Oh, I love that.
So good.
One of my other highlights from the Coach store, the vintage resale market, so hot right now. It is absolutely booming, especially with the Gen Z audience. And it's something that retailers are grappling with. Well, is that taking business away from our brand? People are shopping on third-party marketplace sites, wherever. Coach is bringing that conversation back into their store, right? They've got a dedicated vintage zone in their store where they've gone out and sourced pieces and they are bringing the customer back into their mainline experience. You would think some of these vintage bags would be cheaper, right?
Not the case, as I found out.
Yes, as Duncan found out. These are sought after. They're one of the kind. They're unique. They've lived a life. They've got a story to tell. So it was really interesting to see that vintage zone. Obviously, they had the personalization zone as well. You can get embroidery and charms and all the rest, which, as we see, is so popular right now.
One last point just on Coach. That's a common thread that we saw across a number of stores, both at NRF APAC and also NRF New York earlier this year, is this upcycling concept. So people who love the brand, but they've, the bag's worn out, they can bring it in and they can get it upcycled into a new item. And we saw this at Arc'teryx in New York as well. So people who just absolutely love these items of clothing, because they're such a high quality, it's often a zip, or it's not, the integrity of the product is largely there. And so they can bring it in and they get it repaired and made into an even better item. So that was just something fascinating as well around this sustainability, upcycling piece that a lot of consumers are really conscious of these days.
It was so epic to go and spend time in the stores. I think we learned a lot, and just the conversations that we were able to have, putting theory into practice. I really enjoyed the store tour. Definitely a highlight for a lot of us. Dunks, let's do some rapid fire questions because we're running out of time. We've got to wrap this up. So you've been to NRF New York and NRF APAC now, lucky duck. How do they compare?
Look, I think the biggest thing that surprised me, how fast the digital maturity of the customer is in Asia. Just those online shopping stats in China and Korea, and how we in Australia, I feel like we're lagging behind. If we don't, as a retail community, take these insights, trends that are happening, we're going to get left behind, or there's going to be new retailers that overtake. So I think what really surprised me in Asia was the maturity of the customer. And what really surprised me, and it always surprises me in the US, is just the quality of in-store customer experience. It's the tipping culture.
Second to none.
It's just incredible. You feel like
you're a celeb.
You feel like you're a celeb. So I just am constantly blown away by that. And we saw that at the flagship stores in Manhattan. But the digital maturity of the customer in Asia particularly blew me away.
Highlights from the expo floor. We didn't really get enough time to talk about the expo. My highlights from the expo floor, I enjoyed seeing all the robotics in action.
Yeah.
A lot of supply chain solutions, robotics that are able to go and sweep stores and identify stockouts and create then tasks. And that's agentic in practice, right? That was super interesting. And all the retail media's different applications, especially the Fair Price booth. Yeah. Every orange felt like it had its own little retail media display. Yeah. What was your highlight from the expo floor?
I think my highlight was two highlights. One, just the multi-language capability that AI is enabling. So in Asia, there's just, the US, there's really just one or two major languages. Asia, there's just a squillion, so all of these technologies are enabling multi-language, which people on the shop floor just were blown away by. The other one was this social commerce trend. And there's a vendor that we saw that enables social commerce, not on a social media platform, but within your own brand website.
Yes.
So if you're Mecca, you can have an influencer and customers come into your four walls, digital walls, and they can point customers to shopping promotions and things within your site. So it was bringing live shopping into your brand, which was fascinating.
Love. Favorite booth in the AWS zone?
I love the work we're doing with Amazon Fresh and externalizing that for our customers, which is around computer vision to detect quality in fresh produce. So, we can look at a banana and say, there's too many black spots, throw it in the bin, or is there a cut in it, throw it in the bin. Or for a strawberry, is there too much white at the top? Is there enough red? Computer vision can now sort of detect this automatically, which is a huge leap forward in the fresh produce capability for a lot of our grocers.
Yeah. My highlight was
Yeah. What was yours, Brooke?
The Proto, the holographic intelligent retail kiosk. That was epic. It's a life-size kiosk. You can have a AI-powered holographic sales associate interacting with you. We were having conversations. She was giving us recommendations. And we actually had the Minister of Communications in Singapore stopped by our booth and I got to demo it for her.
And then you featured in the local newspaper. So
on the CNA News on TV, actually.
On TV,
Yeah. That was
Famous.
incredible. That was really a lot of fun. I think there's so much to be learned. Don't skip the booths. Make sure you're spending time going and see the various solutions. And it's so interesting when you get to spend time on the expo floor. Okay, very last question. What is one thing that retailers can do tomorrow to start applying what they learned from NRF, whether they were there, whether they've listened to this conversation in their business?
Look, I think it's not a technology piece of advice. I think it would just be open to change and innovation and experimentation. You know, if you have a culture of experimentation, you're just going to be more able to be flexible and adapt to these trends that we're seeing out there and come through. So, you know, think about how fast or how many experiments you're running and try and double it, try and triple it and see what that does for your business.
That's the best advice. And it's not necessarily if you've tried something once, 5 years ago, we had an experience and however the outcome was. I think that with a lot of these tools that are becoming available to us through generative AI and agentic AI, the game has shifted and it's certainly worth looking into how you can deliver some of these experiences to your customers powered by some of these AI tools that now exist that previously didn't.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Duncan.
Thanks, Brooke. It's been awesome.
It's been epic to debrief on what was an incredible week. If you get the chance to go to NRF, I couldn't recommend it highly enough. I felt I learned so much while I was there, so much that I could bring back to our customer conversations. It was truly an epic week.
It truly was. And we can't wait. We'll be back NRF New York in early January, freezing cold. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do another one of these.
Epic. Thank you.
Thanks, Brooke.